Now, in each variable, we have what are called data types, okay? And a data type determines what you can do with that variable, as well as what you can put in there next. Okay, so the basic data types in Python, the ones that we'll be dealing with at first, there are more, but we're going to start out with these four. A string, also sometimes referred to as a string literal, always has quotes around it. They can be single quotes or double quotes, but whatever's here has to match here. So you don't put a double quote and a single quote. It has to use both. There's not really a huge difference between the two. You can use what you prefer. Most of the time I use double quotes. An integer is a number that does not have a decimal. Okay? No quotes here. If I put quotes around this, it's no longer an integer, it's a string. It's the string of the numbers 1, 1. It does not, you cannot do math with a string. Okay? So this is going to get you guys, it'll get almost everybody in this class at one point or another. A floating point is any number with a decimal. Why do they bother having two different data types for numbers, one with decimal, one without? It comes down to memory usage. And it's a very simple distinction, but if you're writing a huge program, this is memory efficient, this is less memory efficient. So if you have 30 numbers in your program, no big deal. If you have 30 million numbers in your program, big deal, big difference. So again, it's one of those things that matters at a huge scale, but doesn't really matter when you're talking about a smaller program like we'll be writing this class. And then Boolean is true or false. Notice they're capitalized, no quotes. So capital true, capital false are Boolean values that are recognized by the computer. So if I have my name here, okay, so I have two variables. I have, actually the string is not, age is not a string, it's an integer. Okay, so when I'm naming variables, there's a few rules that I like to follow personally, and I recommend that you follow them as well, because it will help you think about what a variable is. First of all, I use something called camel case. Camel case means you start lowercase, and each new word, because I can't put a space in the middle of a variable, and I don't like typing a million underscore keys. So camel case is a common convention used by programmers. You'll hear it all over the place. People know what you're talking about. I didn't make it up. But you can see where it gets the name. It's because it's got humps in the middle. Okay, so I use a short abbreviation for the type of data that I'm putting in that variable. And then I use a capital letter to start the next word, and I say what that variable is. And I can do something like this if I want to be very specific. Now, I also think about how long that variable is and how many more times I'm going to have to type it. Because if I have a really long, 30 or 40 character variable name, I'm going to have to type it more. Then I mentioned that computer scientists are lazy, because we are. We're always looking for shortcuts. But also, the more you have to type something over and over and over, what else do you think happens more often if you're typing a long thing over and over and over? What? Errors. You make mistakes. And so you want to be very judicious with your variable names. You want them to make sense, You want to be able to see what it is, but you don't want to do a ton of extra typing, and you don't want to produce errors. So if I do something like if I do this, Python's going to not like that very much. It's going to give me a little bit of weird highlighting here. So if I say print int age plus str first name or string first name, what do you suppose is going to happen there? How many say it's going to print 48 bill? How many think it's going to yell at me? Yeah, it's going to yell at me. It's not going to like it. Okay. So it basically is saying, like, hey, right here, dummy, you can't do a plus with int and string because those two things can't be added together. Now, with print, I can print two things one after the other by putting a comma in the middle of them. And then it will print what I want it to. So there are ways to do things. You just can't do math with that. Okay? You can't do math with those variables.